So we're gonna start this in a different place because I did not raise my needles like I should have. So, but I always start and stop in the same place. But I'm going to be a liar about that today. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just going to move it, scoot it over by 4 needles for simplicity, so I don't have to redo everything. So I'll do this, get this out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and knit the rest of these. And I'm going to try to drop this one because I'm blonde. You know, I walked in here this morning barely with 2 cups of coffee in me. It's not my fault.
It's too early.
Right? Okay. Right. So you just do your toe like you normally do. And I do a wrapped thing, so and that's my preference. But the first row, you don't engage your heel spring because what you want is that first row to be easy to identify and pick out later. So now I'm going to engage my heel spring. And when I do a toe up sock, because, and this is just habit, I always do 2 extra rows on that first little bit to get a little bit more fabric to go across the machine because I used to do it on a 54 and a 60. So I wanted that couple extra rows. You don't have to do that on the 72 or a 64 or even a 60 if you're careful about how you do it. So this just gives me a couple extra rows and a little bit more fabric. And then you just, you know, it's a regular old toe, just like any other day. And if anybody has any questions because I'm looking down, you know, go ahead and ask, and I will do my best to answer. And I'm dropping stitches already. Yay me! Let me hold that. Maybe I shouldn't do these at 9 o'clock in the morning, huh? Let's see. Pick that up. You know, because it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. You're still going to drop stitches once in a while. And it's easy to fix. Did I get them both? No, I did not. Dun, da, da, da. Pick that up. Yeah, let's see. Don't you just love it when it goes just the way you want it to?
It's because everybody's watching.
Well, you know, it is what it is. I mean, we're all human, but it's not hard to fix. So pick that up. Catch here. And I pick these up. And make sure I got them in the right order. I think I do. Pick one up. And it doesn't have to be pretty, truth be told, because it'll come out in the wash. There we go. All right. And ta-da. None of that. And I'm going to scoot my body over a little bit because I'm 4 stitches different. So this will help. So it's just no different. I wanted just to show you that it really is no different. You know, you just make your toe. I could have done the toe ahead of time and just showed you how to hang it. But while we do this, if you decide that a toe-up sock is too fiddly and you really, really don't like to Kitchener, I'm going to show you guys a quick trick, and I'm going to pass this around. There's an alternate toe closure where you can still do a cuff down sock. So let me show people that are on the feed watching it. And it is a crochet, it's a crochet seam. And it's actually done with the same yarn that you're knitting with. You actually use less yarn doing this, and then you end up with a little bit of reinforcement around the toe and a little cushion across the top of the toe. So that's something if anybody's curious about, if you have time today, If somebody would be so kind as to come and grab these for me, put one on each table, that would be awesome. And we'll get back to working on the toe. And I'll go ahead and hang my soft weights. Oh, and just so that everybody knows that when we leave today, we are going to not be back tomorrow. So if there's anything you've been eyeballing downstairs that you want and you don't want to have to pay shipping, today's the day to do it. I'm not trying to be a bonehead, but I just want people to know, because I mean, we ship any of the products that we have. So sorry for the shameless plug, but I just want everybody to know. So if you haven't finished your shopping or there's something you've spied at our table, if you're new, I have little waste yarn sets where you get, like 5 or 6 colors of waste yarn, which is nice to get because anyway you have options. I got them in 25 grams and 50 grams. Makes it easier instead of spending big money on lots of cones, I think I just messed that one up. I did, but that's okay. We'll just do it this way. We'll just catch it up, because it's the art of hanging the toe that I'm more interested in showing you than anything else.
So you start your toe, you start doing the same way for toe up. It's just you're starting at the waist yarn instead of ending at the waist yarn.
Right. Yeah. So you just start. You do the toe first. That's all. That's the only difference. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and up. And so now we're going to go down. And we're going to wrap and down. So yeah, toe up sock is really nice because when it comes off the machine, because you've done a crochet bind off and your toe is basically already done, it's ready to go on your foot. And so you can do a quick test fit, make sure it's good and all that kind of stuff. It has some really good advantages. And if you don't like to Kitchener, it's a great way to avoid the Kitchener. And I can Kitchener. As a matter of fact, it was the first thing I learned how to do when I learned how to knit was to Kitchener. It's a long story. Don't ask me how or why, but that's what it ended up being. And so it was the first thing I actually learned how to do with needles. But yeah, I'm not a fan. Yeah, I don't like it. It's confusing. And because I can't read a pattern and that stuff doesn't make any sense to me, I'm always looking for an alternate way to do what I need to get done. And so we're just working on making our little toe cup. Get out of there. And I like a wrapped heel and a wrapped toe. I just feel like it closes up nicer. That's just me. But whatever kind of heel or whatever kind of toe you like to do, it still works with a toe up sock. The most important thing is how you hang it. Because if you have a 60 slot cylinder, well, you're only going to have, you're going to have 12 less rows than somebody that's got a 72 slot cylinder. You have 12 less rows of fabric, because we start with little strings and we're making fabric. But if you don't have enough fabric to stretch across the cylinder, then that's a problem. But you do, as long as you start out well. And the corners are a little tough sometimes to find. And so that's one of the things I'll show you that's real important. I like to hang the first couple of stitches on either side. When I do this first, then I pick whichever side I want to work from and hang the rest of it. But what's nice is if you get those first couple of stitches out of the way on both sides, then you're not digging for them later. And the right side at 3 o'clock is harder to see than at 9 o'clock. And I'm not sure why that is, but it is. it's just true. Okay, what do we got here? We are mangled up somewhere. And I'm not sure where. Oh, right there. Come on. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. This yarn was salvaged yarn. There we go. Ta-da! From a messed up. I had it set up. Was halfway through the sock. I had to leave it, and then walked around the room and I bumped the handle while it was halfway done and dropped like 8 stitches. I was like, "Son of a biscuit eater!" And it had lycra on it, so I had fun take. Yeah, so that's what we had, is a little spot with a little bit of cobweb lycra on it, and it likes to catch like it's doing right here. Okay, come on. Oh, look what we did. We came out of our goodies. That'll mess us up. So let me pull this back a little bit. There we go. Pull this back, and now we get back. There we go. So, and as you see, I'm not a perfect knitter. And I'm actually, when I knit, I like to be by myself. And I literally talk my way through one up, one down, wrap this, do that. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm talking out loud. So to talk and to do this is always a challenge for me. So, yes, I've made lots of mistakes, but making the toe isn't what today's necessarily about. It's about how to hang the toe. So does anybody have any questions about anything yet?
Do you ever add stitches on a smaller cylinder, like a deep heel? Do you do a deep toe? That doesn't actually work though, does it? I'm thinking through it.
No, well, you could do a deep toe, but then you would end up with a funny foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, but if somebody, well, but if somebody actually has had surgery and they've lost a couple of toes, that may be a good option for a more custom fit to, where you can change the toe on one side, because of course everything I'm doing is even. But if you're making a sock for somebody where they're missing toes, well then, okay, then the foot row count's going to change, because you're not really going to do a toe. You could do a more boxy toe, but you could literally, if they're an amputee, if that cross edge right across the top of this, say they're an amputee right here, and as a nurse, I can tell you, this skin here at where it's been amputated, they'll be really sensitive for a while. So having a seam right across there would not be good. But making a modified toe, where there wouldn't be a seam running across the new stump, would be good. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that you could do. So we're gonna wrap and down. And believe it or not, we're almost done with this toe, despite all my boo-boos. But like I said, I'm not really showing you how to make the toe. I'm showing you how to move it across. And then you wrap the last one on this side. And then it's just like any other time you do a heel or a toe. You get a little bit past those needles. I like to get 3 past where I just finished. And do I need to go ahead and, I wrapped it? No, I can go down one more. I'm not even done yet. I'm just lying to you, Oh, Lord, have mercy. I'm not with it today. Okay, and then you go back. And this last one goes down. Okay, so now we're all done with that. So, and then you stop and you get 1, 2, 3. And you push your needles down just like you always do. And when you want them down enough where all your latches are open. And here's the fun part. When you take your weights off or out, your soft weights, and then and so 2.5 pounds. And I have even weights because I have found that when you start, and of course, if you have even tension all the way around, your machine knits better. So if your weights are properly centered, the machine just knits better. It's not pulling off to one side or the other. If you're using a buckle, you don't get it quite centered. Well, with soft weights, you just drop it in the middle, and it's always right. But because of that, then when I use my soft weight, I use soft weight. It weighs 2.5 pounds, calibrated to include the fork, and even the ring. So when I use this, just so anybody curious, I stick my fingers through it, I do this, I slide it up the inside wall of the cylinder, I put the fabric out, I hook it, and I let this go, and it creates that really nice tight spot in the middle. You don't want any bounce in the middle, because you're always going to have to watch your corners on the miter anyway, because that's just the most dangerous spot on the sock, right? Okay, one of the things that's important when you do a toe-up sock is you want to make sure that your waist yarn stays down. Yep. Okay. You want to make sure that your waist yarn goes down inside the cylinder and that your tail is out in the toe part. So I'm going to show you a quick trick to burying that tail. So when you do this, you see real quickly there is, and let me see. Okay, so this is going to be our first stitch here. So it's easy to see that this stitch goes here. So if I grab this stitch right here, and I simply grab this stitch and I pull it all the way over to here, I've already created a problem. So I pinch that fabric, I push down on the waist yarn a little bit, and I lift that fabric over to that needle. And I lift that fabric over to that needle. And the reason I lift the fabric is I pull the fabric instead of the stitch. So on a 72, I'm going to get across there easily. But with a 60, you're not going to have as many rows of fabric. And if you get into that habit of pulling the stitches where you get these nice little long V's, when you get around to the other side, it's not going to mash up. So, and then on this side,
Similar.
huh?
It's like hanging a hem.
It is. It's like hanging a hem. If you pull too much on those stitches, it's just like when you get a run in your sweater, and it shrinks it all up, and you're like, son of a, and you're like, dang it, now that's all messed up. And so it's the same thing here.
For some reason, I always thought it was hard.
Huh?
I always thought that toe up was hard.
No, it's the toe up isn't any harder. It's more time consuming, because you end up having to hang the toe and have to and doing a crochet bind off.
But you get the most, the heel and the toe are the hardest part of the sock, and you get one of them done right away.
You get one of them done right away, and if you've hung the toe well, and you see how I'm literally picking. I'm taking the fabric to the needle and lifting it up and over. And on a 60, this is more critical because the more, the less rows you have, the less fabric. So it's harder to get across. And so it is a little fiddly because you do have to pull it around and kind of mess with it and try not to smack the camera lady or poke her in the eye or, destroy her equipment. But yeah, so I try to catch that and just kind of lift it over. And it's a really tiny, minute movement because, as you can see, I'm not having any trouble getting any of these up and over. And da-da-da-da. So if I start pulling it like this, even if I pull it a little bit just like this, that will cause me problems later. So even a slight pull is not good. So you get it and you lift it. So I'll grab it and pull the fabric and, let the stitch ride along with me. I try not to pull the stitch at all, because this is the part that's hard. And it's a little fiddly the first few times. And of course, I'm off by 4 stitches, so this is kind of making me wonky because I'm kind of a creature of habit. But I modified what I was doing because it doesn't matter where it starts as long as I can show you the toe. See, I kind of pulled on that one. So if I start pulling on these, I'll get more trouble. But now I can come this way. Does anybody have any questions? If you miss a stitch, you'll know it here in a little while, which I might have. Well, yeah, I'll end up with an extra stitch somewhere, and I'm like, oh, that's not right. But as I get closer to this corner,
So you go 3 to 9. You said 3 o'clock tends to be the hardest one to find.
yeah, especially if you do a little extra playing with it.
Okay.
So that's 3. And see, I like to. Okay, so I know this one goes here, and there's another one. Where are you? Did I put 2 on there? There's that one. You'll know if you've done something goofy. Clearly, I've done something goofy, but for simplicity, we can do this, this, and this. Okay. And if you've done this right, you'll see where this does, and there's something, I missed one right there. Dun, dun, dun. So this one doesn't have one on it. But if you've done it right, you'll see it looks like this. You see how you got that nice connect on the, all the way around? Okay. Well, I've done something goofy here. So just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to do this just to pull it over, just so we don't lose stitches. But when you hang it, because then if you do this, what you do is you can start unpeeling it back until you figure out where you kind of gummed it up. But one of the things I like to show people about this is, so once you hang it, it's good. Even if you hang it a little funny, it's still all right, believe it or not. So one of the things I like to do, and this is kind of important, I take that last little string, and just like when I do my heels or anything else, let's see, this was 1, 2, 3. We're going to do this. I lift them all up on the back a little bit, just because I got 2 or 3 pieces of yarn on those. I want to make sure all those latches are going to do what they need to do. And just like before, we're going to crank around, and I'm going to really watch these back stitches, because when you watch the back stitches, that's where you can drop them, because there's a lot going on there. And again, you can push on the miter. When I get back to about here, though, this is one of my favorite tricks to do, and you can do this whether you do a cuff down or a toe up. But your first empty string is, you'll take it and you'll E-wrap it backwards. You'll E-wrap it clockwise, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches, whatever. And what happens is it locks this in, and these stitches will, this tail will never come undone. And you can do it 3 or 4 stitches, or you can do it 5 or 6. I just do it as many as I feel like doing it. And then I put the tail in, and then I kind of stick my fingers on that first stitch and grab a couple, just kind of set it like this, and then that way as I knit around. So now what I've just done, yep, is, yeah, you beat it up a little bit, but my tail is now in. And after a few rows, my tail is woven in, I snip off the excess, and that toe is done. So when it comes off the machine, you don't have to turn it inside out, you don't have to bury a tail, you don't have to zigzag, and you don't have to worry about it. It's just done. So this little piece of yarn is the leftover yarn from yesterday's class, which is why it's getting funkier and funkier. Because it is just getting weirder and weirder. So we're going to run out of yarn pretty quick. And we're just going to let it drop off the machine, and then we can pass this around. And you guys can kind of see, Oh, what's nice too is if you're doing this, and you get down where the toe's out and you've already done your heel and the cuff is there. Well, now guess what? Pull out your ravel cord that you have between, and I didn't put ravel cord in there this morning. This is just demo. But pull your ravel cord out and your waist turn's already off. And the toe is perfectly done. So before you even ever take it off the machine, you can have that toe fully exposed. And so here is our goodies. And if I'm smart, I can take it off and you can see. As a matter of fact, I will. I'll just cut this. So I'm going to make a mess of pink fun fiber all over the floor. So that I normally don't cut. I normally put in ravel cord, but don't need to do it every time. And I did mess up on the toe in a couple of places. So we pulled up a stitch from another row. So even if it looks funny, it comes out in the wash. That's it exactly. So, and that's the nice thing is a toe up sock is actually a little bit more forgiving than a regular sock because it just, you don't have to worry about which one's which as much. And of course, do you want to? Well, of course you do. But do you have to? No, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And watch me cut my brand new bonnet. I would cry. I'd go, Jen, I need another one. Yeah.
My favorite bonnets. They're the best.
Oh, I love them. And I just got, I've had all of my original ones, either that I made or that came with my machines. And I've started to wear them out. I treat them kind of like gold, you know. So they've lasted for 100 years. And let me get to where I've got the end of the yarn here.
My husband has this nasty habit of leaving socks on machines for months at a time, so I always need extra bonnets because he's always got my bonnets.
Oh, no.
I know, because he only does like one sock at a time. He doesn't do a snake. He doesn't. So he'll like start one on one machine and he'll just sit
He
there.
doesn't leave the weight on it that long, does he?
No, but
He just leaves
bonnets
it
there.
in.
Bonnets there.
Yeah, I don't like cutting the waist yarn, as you can tell, because it's kind of a pain. I really wanted to get this off, but I just don't like it this way. But anyway, we can pass it around, and if somebody wants to fight with the waist yarn that way, they can.
We take it off for
Yeah,
you.
I'll just be a jerk, you know. But yeah, usually I use the ravel cord. I don't know why. I got here this morning, walked in the door, and I thought, oh, first class is 9 o'clock. That's me. I was like, yeah, no. But no, so a toe up is actually really pretty easy. And like I said, what's nice about it is if you can get the waist yarn off, I guess we could take it off better. Oh, she has more patience than I do.
Have you ever used that wedge? I've heard that using the wedge style toe or heel works where you do the.
Oh, the 3 stripes. Yeah, I know somebody who does that. A friend of mine, Scott Faust.
Stretches better.
And he loves the 3 wedge heel like that, and it's basically a series of funny. I've never tried doing it.
I think that's the one I've seen that looks real complicated though, right?
No, it's actually not.
They-
I've done it once and it makes it looks like the tomato heel, you know.
Yeah.
The three triangles on the side. It's really pretty with, like yarns like that where you can get like.
Oh yeah, where you end up with that nice
You
little
end up with like one color, another color, and
another color. Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, they can end up really cool. And that's the nice thing too is if you're using yarns, and you know, I love how meticulous she is. This is wonderful. Do you want scissors?
No,
I
but
was gonna get it.
I was
I almost
told
got
that on
it.
smaller cylinders that sometimes it helps because it's got a few extra rows, so it ends up
Kind of making a
rounder
deeper
and
heel. Yeah.
already
Yeah,
kind
it
of
provides a
like a
little bit
ball.
more of a cup in the heel. Yeah, so the heel cup with a miter is it's important, like on a lower like a heel tab sock or a no show. It's really important to have that deep heel, otherwise that sock just slides right in the shoe. slides right in the shoe. But that 3-wedge heel does seem to prevent some of that, and just because the nature of what it is, that you end up with those couple of extra rows, and so it is a really good alternative, especially for low shows and no shows, and the heel tab socks and stuff like that.
I think that Santa bag, you know, the one that Jeannie
Yeah,
on Sock TV, I think it would be better done as a toe-up.
it might be.
Well, because dealing with black and Frank Kitchener is already a nightmare, but that way, if you screw up your black, you can just start over right away.
There you
That
go.
was so close.
I'm sticking to it.
You know, but as you get that kind of dug out, and like I said, if I'd used ravel cord, it would have slid out just beautifully, and we just showed it off just easy peasy. How are we doing on time?
We're good. And there's questions for you.
Yes.
What's the benefit of toe up versus the Kitchener? You can just answer.
The thing is there's people like me. I don't particularly like the Kitchener. I can do it. There are people that find it really confusing and it's hard to do, or they don't have the skill set. They don't know how. Or sometimes it's a dexterity thing where they can't sit down and hold a little tiny needle. I know I have a hard time holding the needles, the small knitting needles, whether it be double point or if I'm doing it even with a yarn needle. So there are different people for different reasons might do that. I simply do a toe up or an alternative crochet bind off on my toe because I just simply hate to do Kitchener.
And last question. Can you discuss cast off and top cuff finishing for doing toe up socks, please?
Okay, and so what you would do for a toe up sock is when you get to the cuff, and say you want to have a 1-inch cuff and you've got 9 rows per inch, you'd crank out the total number so that you'd get to the 18. But at number 18, at that very first row of the last bit of the leg, you could toss in a piece of fishing line, a piece of ravel cord, or something else in there with it to mark that row really easily, and then crank out your another 18 rows, and then you simply hang the cuff just like you would on a cuff down sock. The only difference is you do a crochet bind off on the machine. I know I've got, I think there's one on the Crazy Old Sock Lady page that does talk about how to do the crochet bind off on the machine. And if it's not there, you guys can hit me up on Facebook on Messenger and message me, and we can do a video chat, and I can show you how that's done anytime. So I'm free and open to that kind of stuff with the CSM community all the time. I have no problems with that whatsoever. So I'm happy to help anybody through those things.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did you finally get to see it? Did everybody get to see it yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.